Welcome to Blue Tinted Glasses, the home of Leicester City talk on YouTube. Fan debates, live watch-alongs, post-match reactions, and all the Foxes banter you could ask for. Subscribe now and see the game through Blue Tinted Glasses.
Well then, Mahrez has made something of that. It's Mahrez! 2-0 to Leicester City!
Next to it, Anthony Canoca finds Wood. Wood should score. Wood West Canoca. Yes! In!
Here comes Leicester again with Heskey and Ibbett! Well, this is incredible.
Got Jamie Vardy with him. Jamie Vardy sets off.
Jamie Vardy!
Blue Tinted Glasses, the home of Leicester City talk on YouTube.
Welcome to Blue Tinted Glasses. It's Tuesday night, and that means it's time to talk tactics. This is the show where we look back at the trials and tribulations of Leicester City Football Club, and we get to the nitty-gritty of what's working and what isn't, and why. And I am very fortunate because I am joined by the Carlos Queiroz to my Sir Alex Ferguson. It's none other than the Danish sensation. It's Andreas Duck Quack Quack. Good evening, Andreas. How are we today?
Hello. I'm good. I've been playing a lot of FIFA recently. We've been, getting a BTG squad going in there with Lux, Jack as well, Ross, and it's been lovely. It's been really, really good fun. I'm enjoying it, even though the uni semester is starting to take a toll on the workload.
Okay, well, watch out when FM26 comes out because your uni work is probably
It'll be
suffer.
dangerous.
Quick story, I had a friend who got into World of Warcraft in the final year of his dissertation for uni, and I'm convinced he would have been the top graded candidate in the year, and he in fact failed it, so be careful. I love video games, but they can also be pretty bad VR. So,
That's true.
Let's get into it. I'll ask you as always what's going to come up in the show in a minute, but let's just look back at the game. So it was 0-0. I have to say, though, I think it was a good 0-0, if such a thing exists. I think if you look at the stats here, XG just under 1, so he probably should have scored the goal. I think we can all guess where that should have been. But from what you saw of the game, Andreas, what did you make of the match?
I thought it was one of our, in terms of tactically speaking and fluidity of the play that Marty wants, it was one of our best performances all season, and I'm including the Fiorentina game with that. Obviously, some finishing flaws, you can say, and that's not as much to do with tactics. That's just, players being on form and not, and obviously it's something you do take care of a bit in training, but it's not in that sense a part of the tactical setup, and I'm excited. I think we're starting to see some of this work. Ricky and Winks coming in. Ooh, the difference that made to have so much technical quality. And I have to mention it just before we get into Jeremy Mong as well. What a fucking player! What a fucking player!
He is a baller. Well, we play this game every week. It's a new game that I've invented. I quite like it. So, Andreas, looking back at that game, what do you think the talking points are tonight? What are they going to be?
We will be talking fluid build-up, I think, or the build-up phase, right? Or you could say confident in possession or whatnot you want to call it. I think we'll be talking about the chance creation and then obviously the finishing, right? And we'll probably talk about in the fluid build-up and in the chance. I want to mention in particular Jordan Ayew, because I think some of the reason we're lacking with the goals is the position he has to take up to help the build-up, but we'll probably get into that later.
Man, this is why Andreas is hired on this show. Let me tell you, the hive mind is working. So we're going to talk about a few things. We're going to talk about Harry Winks and Bouba Samare alternating as pivots, and that is the build-up phase that Doc mentioned. We have to talk about misfiring Steffi Mavididi. Seems like a ghost from his former self. Why is that? We'll take a look at that. I am surprised, actually, you missed out this guy. It is, of course, Lox's favourite ever player. It is Jordan James. Have I got the... Actually,
that's the American one. That works. The Welsh club is owned by Americans, regardless, right? It works.
Exactly. We're going to talk about that. We are, as you mentioned there, we're going to talk about the false nine and Marty's use of strikers. That's something that I'm getting quite a bit of grief on Fox's talk for. And I'll explain what I think, what our options are there. But I'm also going to talk about how we nullified Coventry, because I think we didn't talk about the fact that we kept the league's top scorers at the time down to 0 goals, and we looked pretty comfortable at it. So I think that is worth talking about too.
Yeah, they had 0.4 XG, right? Just quickly.
Goals win games,
really didn't have much.
But clean sheets win championships, Andreas. That's what we were always told. So let's get into the lineup. Now, I've got a good question for you, right? Because this lineup was quite radically different, as you say. So now that the transfer window is closed, I guess I wasn't surprised to see a lot of players who we're definitely looking for moves away. We can say that, right? But we now know that Winks, Faze, they're going to be staying, and they were brought immediately back into the team. Skip was dropped. Okoli was dropped. I think after the last analysis we showed, we can understand why. But what was your immediate take on seeing that lineup, and how did you think we would set up?
I think it's good. It's nice to see. I hope that this isn't just because this is the better technical players who we all know are really, really good in the championship, right? They've proven that just 2 years ago. But I really hope the reason they're back in is because Marty's had a good look at them and told, the window's closed. You're not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. We can either make this work, you can give 100%, and the fans will see that. I'll see that, and your hard work will pay off, or you can stay on the bench. So I hope they're in not just because this was a big game, but because they're also willing to put in the shift that I thought they did this game against Coventry.
Absolutely. Well, I tell you what, when I looked at this lineup, I loved it first and foremost because I think it got the ballers back into the team. It meant we were going to be able to keep possession. You got Ricardo in there, you got Winks, you got Faze. Sumare, like I said, has got good passing accuracy all season. But why I was interested, Andreas, I thought, okay, normally the way that Marty likes to play is it's more of a sort of 4-3-3, 3-1-3-3. So who out of Winks and Sumare is going to be the pivot? That was my question. And you got Jordan James in there. Is he going to play on the left or the right? But as it turned out, Marty, he mixed it up, I would say, because this is pretty much how we lined up. So we actually lined up more as a 4-2-3-1. And that's why I mentioned Booba and Winks, because they kind of alternated as pivot. So this is something to keep an eye on, because what I think is good about Marty is that whilst we try and play the same way technically, the way that we do it does alternate game upon game. He changes the build-up structure. He changes who's playing in what positions and what roles they're doing. And he does that for a specific reason. And we'll get to the reason why I think he did that, because Coventry are a good team. And I think he had one eye on that. And just very, very quickly looking at Coventry, so they too play a 4-2-3-1. But actually, the way that they play, that I'll go to the sort of next screen, is that a danger man, I think, is Van Uwijk. Right, very good player. I think this is a player that's been looked at by a few teams in the Bundesliga, even in the Premier League.
Yeah, he was rumored to Wolfsburg, I know.
Exactly. And like he quite often will join up in the attack. And so, that's why I think, why is Jeremy Mongo not starting? I do think in a game like this, having Mavididi to keep an eye on him was important. But yeah, this just wanted to sort of point this out before we went into the game. These stats have obviously changed since ways, but Coventry, if you look at it, their XG was absolutely ridiculous for the whole season. 11.3 XG, and they actually scored 15, so they even outperformed that. But you've got to say, compared to Leicester, this was a team. Their top scorer had 5 goals, right? And they were definitely the toughest test of everyone we played. And I think you could see that when we lined up against them. So I think Marty, was he a bit cautious? We'll get to that in a moment. But I think his approach was right, okay? He wanted to make sure that he had a team, the best possible team that could control the game and mean that Coventry didn't get too much of the ball, which is how the game played out. So let's get into my first talking point, and this is the double pivot. And I think there's a lot you're going to like about this from a tactical point of view, Duck, and I'll ask you for your opinion on it. So first and foremost, this was our team build-up shape, setting the tempo. And, well, I ask you here, what do you make of this, right? Because you've got the 3-2 shape here. You can also see some of the other players. So when I show this to you, what are your immediate thoughts looking at this?
I think obviously it's worth mentioning it's bold on the turnover, right? Because there will only be 3 players back. I think there are many outlets that you can play into. You have a lot of options, making it very hard. If they want to go man for man, it's near impossible. You have to invest quite a lot of people up in the press. You'll almost always have a passing option available. I noticed in particular both Winks and Sumare obviously being based at the pivot, because they can pivot around very quickly and play that forward pass. And I think Ricardo and John James ready to capitalize on that, run the hard yards, and then play it on or do some combinations with other players in other positions further up the field. So I think it's pretty good, pretty well rounded.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to show you this in a second. So you might remember this. So this, of course, was Enzo's system, right? Very similar again, 3-2, 5 up top here. But you can see the sort of difference in the way that players were set up. But here you can sort of see the subtle differences between the sort of two systems. So Ricky P, he's not inverting in next to Winks. He's actually inverting in to become an attacking midfielder here alongside Jordan James. That gives us a box midfield here, you can see. And it's a box midfield, but Marty, because he comes from a kind of Spanish and Dutch school, he wants those passing angles. So that's what you've got here. And as you say, the idea is to create the man advantage. So Coventry, they are at times trying to do an aggressive man-to-man press in certain phases to give us that additional option to pass the ball to and get our way out of trouble. You can also see, though, that the distance between Jordan James and Ricardo is much narrower compared to how it was under Enzo. But what you also are seeing in this picture is you can see that the sort of wide options are still further up. So keep that in mind for how we're going to be building up and playing going forwards. So what would happen is that Winks or Ricardo, Winks or Sumare even, not Ricardo, at times they would drop in to be like the additional pivot to pick up the ball and create angles. So that's one of the differences between Marty's system and Enzo's systems. Enzo wanted Ricky and Winks to kind of be next to each other for what was called the bounce pass. You'd quite often see the ball played into Ricardo, he'd bounce it to Winks, and then Winks would turn. But in this way, one player drops back rather than playing immediately next to one another. So here we see Yannick starting the move, which is a key feature of our play. He's going to play it into Sumare, and he's going to play this into Winks. Now look at Winks' body language here. This is one of the reasons why he's such a good player. Before he even receives the ball, he's scanning. He's taking a look around to see what are my options and what am I going to do when I get the ball. And Duck, who is the player that he's looking at in this picture?
He's looking for his boy Ricardo.
He is, exactly. Those guys, they're like me, you and I. They're the bromance for the ages, right? Well, as soon as one's getting, he's thinking, where is my buddy? Can I play the ball to him? Right. But you know that on this show, we talk a lot about pressing triggers, right? But that's not the only type of trigger that there is in football, right? There's also attacking triggers. So what you'll see here is Sumare is going to play it to Winks. And I think one of the best things about Winks is that when he receives the ball, he doesn't just receive it, but he's excellent at receiving it on the half turn. Very Spanish style, right? Very Guardiola, very Iniesta sort of style. So what he does, you can see here, he picks up the ball and he spins immediately. And you can see that as soon as he spins and he starts facing forward, just look at the body language. This is the trigger, right? So the trigger in Marty's system is as soon as they see Winks pick up the ball on a half turn, right? People are going to attack. And you can see that Luke Thomas is going to attack. You're going to see that Jordan James is going to attack. And you're going to see that Ricky P is going to attack. And what you can also see, this is the existence of the false nine system, is Ayew, he might not be turned to face, but can you see that he's dragged two players with him? So with this system, the idea that Winks could immediately play the ball into his boy Ricky P or into his new boy, Jordan James, and play it into the middle there. So there you go. There's a lot of things that you kind of look for. So that's kind of how the system would work. Now, in this particular case, it's only 3 minutes into the game. Winks turned back and passed it back. But I'm going to show you some examples in a moment where I like this, right? Winks is kind of like feeling out the opposition. It's a bit like, I really like playing fighting games in real life. In fighting games, sometimes what you'll do is you stick out a move and you want to see how the opposition will react to it. And you go, okay, Duck likes to do this. In that case, I'm going to do that to counter him. So
yeah,
we'll
I'm a Smash Bros player. It wouldn't have played fighting games, but I get what you mean.
Yeah. So here we go. He's going to play it back now. But what I'm going to show you here is you can see now they've alternated round. So now Winks is the deeper lying of the two players in terms of the pivot, and Booba is going to be the one playing up. And Booba did have a good game, but I think that's the thing that he needs to improve is he's not quite as good on the spin as Harry Winks is, but he certainly does make an ability to it. So I'm going to show you an example of that. Here's now on the other side. So Winks has dropped in deep, and we're all about rotation. So now he's going to play it into Ricky, but you can see Booba here. So Ricky's going to get the ball, and he's going to go first time, and he's going to try and play it through the gap to play Booba in. So now Booba can start the attack. And the idea will be seeing as soon as Booba receives the ball, that all the players will start their attacking triggers again, right? Now, in this case, the ball actually gets cut out, and it looks quite dangerous, but we deal with the scenario okay as it happens. But again, it's sort of showing you the idea of what we're trying to achieve. And so, the big reason for me why I was sort of so positive on this game is that looking at this, I was thinking, wow, this team is really well drilled. I can see the patterns of play. I can see it early. And the only thing that's waiting for is the relationships between the players to get there. And that's going to take a bit of time. But as soon as it does, I think we're going to start cooking, Andreas. Right? Buzz, love your questions about Carranza and Ayew. We've got a special section on the false nine. So come back at me. We're going to talk about all that because it's a great question. So that was an example of us sort of trying something, but it got cut out by Coventry, right? But now I'm going to show you when it works. So this is from the second half.
Just mention as well, right?
Yeah,
look at how wide Wout Faes is. Like, this is very much bringing back to the Enzo-esque, right? When the goalkeeper had the ball, they have faith. Like, if you could go to this picture, right? And look at Luke Thomas as well. They're really split out because, where is Ricky in this picture? He's way up the pitch. Was this when he just got subbed off? Around that time, regardless. But, like, we're really spreading the play. And I like that it's bold, and I think to me it also shows a bit more confidence, right? Because go a few weeks back to against Charlton and stuff like this, we were still a bit more traditional because we're still learning the shape and learning the build up, building the confidence in it. And what I really enjoy, and something we didn't see much of under either coach last season, was the changes, the development, the growth in the team that we now against Coventry, a good side in the Championship, who, as you said, scored 15 goals so far, and to be this confident in the build-up shape is a really, really positive sign. And I love the fact that every week we show up to a game, I feel like the boys have taken another step.
Big time. And I think a big part of that is that we didn't have as many bozos in the team. We are going to have one bozo moment we're just going to show a bit later, and that is the difference between personnel. But here, following through this move, so Jakob's got the ball, plays it into Yannick. Yannick's going to play it into FaZe. Now, it's funny you mentioned Ricky P, because he's now appeared in the picture as one of the attacking midfielders, and I hear we've got Winks as well. And do you know what? The thing that I love is I can stop this picture, and obviously I know what's happening because I've made the slides, right? But I know exactly what's going to happen before it's even happened, right? It's all about triangles. It's the 4-3-3 classic. What's going to happen here? FaZe is going to lay it off to Winks. Winks is going to lay it off to Ricardo. Ricardo's going to lay it off to whoever's making the run here. You can just see the triangles.
And I'll say, I think why as well it's so hard to deal with is just take a look at it. There are other options as well. If Winks, like if they want to close down on Ricardo, what happens? Well, Jordan James is available, and you just turn a little bit more, you play that, and then you've got Mavididi later on, Monga, who you can play down that too, and then you can generate the triangle there with Carranza, or are you dropping in to help give a 1-2 give and go, or whatever you essentially want to do, right? But I'm seeing so many positive signs, and it's so good to see, especially after what was a bit of a wash-away week, right, against Oxford, where everything became a bit unorthodox due to the early red cards. So I feel like this is the first time we really saw Leicester play after the international break, and it's really, really positive how much improvement there's been in the system.
Yeah, spot on about the free men. That's exactly the point of the system. And as Ray says, grieved up. You can feel the improvement across the board, and you can feel the change in mentality. I think we really saw that in this game. So here you go. FaZe plays it into Winks. Ricky P's dropping deep to bring his marker with him. And what that means is that Winks can then play it first time to Ricky. Ricky then plays the 1-2. And you see now Winks is on the half turn. You're going to see that the other player is going to start to attack. He can charge forward. And now we are attacking as a 5 with Winks on the ball. So Winks is going to move forward, and here you can see all the runs that we're going to do, and Winks has got all these options that he could possibly go for. And what I've circled here is the one that he's going to go for is he's going to try and play it through to Fatawu, because if he plays that pass through, Fatawu's in one-on-one, and he can either finish or he can play the ball across to Mavididi to score, right? Or even Jordan James or Ayew can follow up. Now, this is one of the very few times in the game where Winks plays the pass and he actually misplaced his pass, probably the only one in the entire game. And his reaction afterwards is pretty funny. You can tell, can't believe I might mess that up. But again, what I'm saying is it shows you sort of the confidence, the quality in the moves that we're making. And it's exciting, like
if
I say.
If that pass goes through, you should have a goal. We see another chance where it's the same thing, right? But it is like, it's this close from, I think anyone, even if they're not really, someone who cares about tactics much and just tries to watch an enjoyable game, will realize that this could be really, really dangerous and really, really good.
Well, it's good to watch when it works as well, which I think we're going to get there pretty quickly. So just going to go across Harry Winks. He had an outstanding game. He won man of the match in the match ratings show. 92 passing % accuracy with 99 touches. That's really impressive, especially as they weren't all just sideways and back. Obviously, he did do a few of those. We can see here 2 key passes. 1 out of 2 accurate long balls. So that's one of the long balls he didn't get accurate, that particular pass that I showed you. Successful dribble, won a lot of ground duels, made clearances, made tackles. Exceptional. He ran the show. Very, very good. But I do think that he playing alongside both Booba and Ricky P made him look even better, which is saying something, and he improved the overall team. So I think a lot of people are calling for Soumaré possibly to be dropped, and I think when Ramsey comes back into the team, it'll be interesting to see if that happens. But I don't think it's a surprise that you put those 3 and Vestergaard and FaZe behind them, and all of a sudden, Enzo used to say this all the time, he used to say, if that back 5 has a good game, we're going to have a good game because they give us the foundation to play from. And against Oxford, we saw, and in previous games, that Okoli, Skip, Hamza Chowdhury to some extent, they broke it down. So putting these players back in the team is what improved us. Now, that, of course, made us look really good. But the funny thing is the best chance we had in the entire game actually didn't come from that at all. right? So one of the things about playing in that kind of nice, intricate style is it will lure players into you and pushing into you. And that means that sometimes, you know what, Duck, you can just Brexit ball it. You can hoof it. So this actually came from a goal kick. Actually, Coventry just had a chance, the Hadji Wright one, which we'll cover a bit later. It went wide and Jakob just pumped it long. And Mavididi comes running in. He's rotating with Ayew here. That's about the flexibility. And fair play to Mavididi. He has been misfiring. That's what this section is talking about, right? But he wins the header and he flicks it onto Ayew, right? And Ayew, he drags two men with him. And this is the thing about the false nine system. In this case, actually, one player goes with him because he drags that player wide and he's going to go left. You can see that all this space is opening up for Steffi here. So Ayew's going to go across. Just look at that. Acres of space for Steffi Mavididi. And fair play to Ayew. He does really well. He gets past this man. He puts in a great ball. And, you know, at first, when I first watched it, I was, of course, disappointed that we scored, but I thought we didn't score. But I thought maybe the chance wasn't that easy, right? Because he kind of slid on the floor in the end, Mavididi. But I think when you show the screenshot, Doug, oh my goodness, he's got to do better there, right? He's got to choose what to do. He hits it with his stronger foot as well. And ultimately, yeah, he falls on the floor and the keeper makes a great save. I mean, fair play. Attack the Breezes. I'm not sure their keeper has received the full credit he deserves in relation to our lack of a goal. Maybe he did make a good save there. You've got to call it as you see it. But at the same time, you know,
I feel bad for him, man. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think a confident Mavididi does well there, right?
It's not just this chance. I think obviously the numbers you're putting up now tells the same story, but
yeah,
you could just see it. Like when he gets the ball, and I think back to 2 years. I think back to the Chelsea game I was watching with my mates. You know, when he cut inside, he absolutely skinned Malo Gusto, and he went for the shot, audacious as well, and he curled it in, and he celebrated like he owned the fucking world. And like, we saw that multiple times when he was begging for a ball in multiple times. Like, guys, give it to me. He got the ball, and he delivered. And now when he gets the ball, he just doesn't have the same drive to take on his man or the same confidence. And, it's heartbreaking. It's really, really heartbreaking to see what's happened with him and his confidence over the past year and a half.
And confidence is exactly what it is. So I've got these stats. So on the left, I've got him from the last championship season. And on the right, I've got this season. And it's very interesting, right? You can actually see that this season, his defensive work is actually way better than it was, although that could be indicative of the team rather than the player. But I think the one that really stands out is that his successful take-ons is just way, way down. Basically, Mavididi, for whatever reason, we see it ourselves. He doesn't really want to take on his man. And as a result, look at these attacking stats. Last time round, his shot creating actions, his shots total, right? His assists, his goals, his expected, they were all unbelievable. One of the best in the championship. This season is almost non-existent. And that's the thing, is like he's receiving the ball. He is running the yards, right? And I'll agree with you, Timothy. We're going to come to this in a moment. But for whatever reason, he just hasn't got the confidence and he's not willing to take on his man, right? Now, what I will show, I've got some other ones here. I'm going to compare him to Fatawu. And so the funny thing is, if you compare him to Fatawu, is just the biggest difference is look at the take-ons from Fatawu. He's like the number one in the league, right? He's beating his man or trying to beat his man, even if he can't do it. And as a result, he's also taking a lot of shots. So that's the opposite. Mavididi, he's sort of turning back shyly, whereas Fatawu is willing to take his man on, whether it works or it doesn't, and it's having a great effect as a result of it. Now, just before we kind of finish on Mavididi, as Timothy says here, I bring with you, right? Steffi really was trying. And I will show you that his defensive work was great. So here's in the defensive phase, you can see that Rodoni, who was pretty threatening for Coventry, I have to say, he had a decent shot on goal. Mavididi, look, he's a full sort of 5-7 yards behind, but he follows his man all the way down the pitch, keeps running. And in the end, he goes for his wicked slide tackle and puts it out for a corner. And if you look at where he started, his starting position actually was even further up. And the fact that he was willing to do all this hard work to get back for the team, that was super encouraging. So he definitely looks trimmer and leaner than he did last season, right? But Luke does say he thinks that since he's got his haircut, he's cut his own bowers off. What do you make of Steffi? Because obviously the elephant in the room is that there's a 16-year-old kid who might be taking his position. And do you think that it's ruined his confidence?
I don't think it's that. I think it's everything that's happened the last year, right? And I think he just seems still down by it all, right? And he was injured in the first few games as well, so couldn't really play. And Like, oh, he's not had the greatest preseason with those injuries affecting that. So he kind of like feels like he's maybe, I don't want to say stuck in the past, but stuck in the past of the issues we had last season, right? Of the negativity of him being benched, of him being dropped, of him being doubted. It's like that confidence there is gone. His defensive contributions is obviously lovely to see because that was one of the complaints we had about him when we got promoted. But, you know, when you scored the goals he did and played like he did, you weren't going to yell too much about it. And it sucks. I mean, I'm happy to see the Manga is challenging him, and I'm at the point where, you know, we all love Manga. We want him to start because he's fucking brilliant, and it's not just because Mavididi is poor. It's because Manga is also, like, class when he comes on. But, man, I really wish we see Mavididi at his best again because it is genuine. It is genuinely heartbreaking because he's such a good player, man. We all know it.
He needs that goal, doesn't he?
Yeah, he needs that goal, the relief, you know, like when Højlund got his first goal in the Premier League, he scored for 6 games straight. Then he turned shit again, but like he had that, you know, oh, I can do it. And then he's, you know, there for a period.
Even Vardy was a confidence player, as funny as that sounds. He went on streaks too. But okay, so there we go. So he's doing the right thing, right? He needs that confidence clearly, but I do agree with Mr. Marty Party here. Monga should be starting. Monga, because of his sort of size and physicality, he isn't going to be as good defensively as Steffi, especially when you've got Thomas behind you. But you saw when Monga came on.
You know, maybe there's another option. You could start playing at left back then.
Well, he might. I'm asking about your team.
You did just sign Luke Thomas for 4 more years.
Anyway, let's move on to something more positive. So, making his first start, obviously he came on as a sub in the last game, but this time he started from the off. Our new number 6, and that is Jordan James, AK Locks' favourite player. And this is the only reason he's tuning into this show is for this part. But I've got to say, I think he was pretty impressive in the game. Here I've got some of his stats. It was proper box-to-box play. He actually played more in the 10 position, but it was all over the place. 86% passing accuracy, 2 key passes, 2 shots on target, 2 out of 3 ground duels won, interception, tackles, and clearances. Basically, as you'd expect from a player in his position, he did a little bit of everything, and everything he did was pretty good. And here I've got his touch map, and you can kind of see that it's pretty much everywhere. Interesting, he also did take set pieces. That's something that we speculated on, which was nice to see.
I thought he was good. I like his work rate. I like his mentality. He seems like a player we'll be very happy to have. But it's very clear he's not the creative, agile, quick 10 that Marty really wants, or I think really would suit this system, right? Because we have some brutality behind us, and I think Jordan James with the number 6 in a number 6 position, you know, maybe the one Samari is playing right now will be absolutely class.
Well, I do think that shirt number is quite telling, and you're right. I mean, you can even see it on the touch map. For as good as he was, you would say that the one criticism of him is he didn't crash the box enough. Like, I think if that was Kin and Dewsbury Hall, or even Ndidi back in the Enzo days, you'd see a lot more yellow in these areas, like arriving late. But he did. I'll show you. So, I mean, he did have one moment, though. And one thing I do think is that he possibly could have scored. He had a very good effort here. So here we can see Monga's on the pitch now for Mavididi. Immediately, he's going to drive down the line and he's going to play it into Jordan James. JJ's got it here. And what I like about this is this, basically where I'm getting with this stuff is that in the 60 minutes I saw of Jordan James, I felt like he looked like the player that I thought Oliver Skip was going to be. As crazy as that sounds, right? So you see him pick up the ball here. And what I like about this is he's composed. He's going to spread it out wide to Fatawu. And now he is going to crash the box to join the attack. So we're attacking with 5. Fatawu and Ricky P, it looks like he's going to play the ball off to him. But instead, this is like a well-worked routine. Look at the space that Jordan James has got because he's crashing the box late. And Fatawu, he's very good here. He's unselfish. Instead of going for the shot, he passes it into JJ. And here you can see, I mean, you wouldn't necessarily expect someone to score there because they got 5 men around them. But I do think that a top-class player is going to work the keeper or maybe even stick it in top bins here or top left-hand corner. And in the end, he goes for a kind of fairly tame shot that the keeper saves here. But why I'm encouraged here is that, like I said, I think this shows a lot of maturity. It shows you that he can pick up the ball and he's not just sort of like, you know, 6-yard passes only. He's capable of seeing where the pass is at the right time. He plays a really good ball there and he follows up the pass. And he gets into the box. And so that's the one more thing he needs to add to his game. And, you know, Dewsbury Hall was like that as well before Enzo got hold of him, right? He made the runs at the right time. He had the stamina. He had the engine, but the numbers weren't quite there. And you do have to say that's probably the one critical thing you got to be of Leicester, critical of Leicester this season, right? Is that where are the goals coming from, right? Our top scorers still are Fatawu with 2 and Ricardo with 2. So some more players have got to get on the score sheet. And it's not just a striker, because as we see, the striker's role is sometimes not even to necessarily be there to score goals. But overall, I was impressed with Jordan James. In that 70 minutes he was on there, we looked good. I do think that when he came off the pitch, the team looked worse as a result. So I think that shows you that he was good. I think you are right. I think when Ramsey returns to the team, he will probably be that player that plays up in that 10 rather than JJ. But given this was a new role for him, I think he did well.
I think it's worth to say as well, just if you go back to the one before, we kind of talked about, maybe sometimes it wasn't the tactic, it's just the finishing that let us down a bit, right? Because as you say, you would have loved to see more from this chance, as it's a very well-worked chance that is clearly, as you said, learned in, studied, trained, and the tactics don't feel anything here. It's simply the finish that, should be better. And that's something that will come with time, hopefully, as they practice it a bit more on the training pitch.
Exactly. Right. So now we're going to get to the section that I've been bugged about all week. It's Jordan Ayew, but very specifically, it's the role of the false nine, because that's the system that we're playing with, Marty. And so who have I got as the false nine here? Of course, it's Bobby Firmino, one of the best false nines in Premier League history. But I also want to show this. You might remember this was all the way back in the summer when I told you how Marty was going to play. I said that the Barcelona team that he grew up watching, they also played a false nine, and they played the one Danish player that I will be happy for you to glaze, Doug. And that is Michael Laudrup, because that guy was an absolute baller. He is one of the best players I've ever seen. I was fortunate to see him live a couple of times, and he really was. His touch, control, vision, everything. Good-looking bastard as well, pardon my language too. Great player. He also played the false nine role. But I think something that people forget about this kind of position is that they are in a team, and even though they normally start in the striking position, the amount of goals that they will specifically score is not going to look anything like a real striker, right? So here I've got Firmino. Firmino, in 362 appearances for Liverpool, he scored 111 times. So that's still pretty good, right? But that's less than 1 in 3, right? So a top striker for a team like Liverpool, you'd be expecting them to be scoring at minimum 1 in 2. I think Salah's even better than that. He's probably like 1 in 1.5. But Salah was scoring those goals because of the work that Bobby Firmino would do. And it was the same with Michael Laudrup. You can see that for Barcelona. This Barcelona team, by the way, won the league 4 times in a row, and they won the Champions League, and they won the Copa del Rey twice. This was as good a team as you will see, right? He scored 51 goals from 228 games, right? But you can see that their assists are pretty good. And you can see, like in this particular example, what happened is Stoichkov and then later Romario, when he came into the team, they were the guys that were scoring the goals because of
Is
what
that the sporting director of Man City, by the way?
Yes, that's him. That's how he knows how to spot a baller as a player. And
fair enough.
Since he's left Man City, they haven't signed as many good players. Maybe not that surprised. And what you'll see here, so here's another example from that team, is that's Laudrup here on the ball. And you can see he's come that deep into an attacking midfield role. And that would mean that the number 6, and it's interesting that the number 6 in our team is Jordan James, would be the one that would then crash the box to go forward, right? So that is the idea of the fluidity of the system and what he's trying to achieve in the team. And I pointed this out last week when we were talking about Aaron Ramsey's role, how him and Ayew would interchange positions quite frequently, and he would be the player that's furthest forward a lot of the times, and he would find himself in that space because the space was created for him, for Ayew. So that's what I wanted to talk about. And what that enables you to do is that's also going to create space in other places on the other positions on the pitch. So here you can see Yannick's got the ball, and something that he is very good at doing, and he did it very well in this game, is because of all that space that's created, it means that sometimes your best option is just to do this. He picks up the ball and he spots a diagonal and he plays in for Tau. And here you can see Ayew, much maligned, but can you see he took 3 players with him? And so that means that there's a one-on-one situation. And really, Vatau should have done much better here. If he'd have controlled that ball properly, he was in, and he'd have added another goal to his stats for this season. So it shows you that that false 9 occupying space is going to make more space for other players in the team to operate in. So speaking of Jordan Ayew, here are the stats that I wanted to show you. Now, you could look at these stats, and in some areas, they look unbelievable. They look actually elite. But to be fair, what people will say, though, is for a striker, though, his shots total, his assists, they're not good enough, right? Now, that means he's definitely not taking enough shots, which implies that he doesn't get into the box enough. I think that's fair to say. But what I wanted to say is that, look, I do think that Ayew has had quite a few stinkers this season. I did show you obviously that game against Preston where he could have cut the ball back to Harry Winks and didn't.
Yeah, like
But the last two games, he's honestly been very good. Yeah.
I think for me, he takes up many of the positions that he's very clearly instructed to do. I think maybe my biggest annoyance with how he plays is not maybe the fact that he gets too little into the box for shots. It's something that needs to be adapted to, and I believe that doesn't necessarily in the system have to be the striker, right? It could be Fatawu coming in more, or Jordan James who makes those late runs into the box, or the attacking midfielder Aaron Ramsey, or who knows, whatever, right? There are ways you can fix that. But I noticed particularly many times as well in the Coventry game that, he just doesn't release the ball soon enough. Like, he just stumbles a bit over his own feet. I remember, was it after Manga skinned Sakamoto playing him, twice, first beating him and then beating him again with a nutmeg, and then sending a brilliant through ball through to Ayew, and he just needs to get it in the box, and he fails. He takes too long, tries to do a step over, tries to beat his man, and then he just passes it into him and gets a corner instead where it could have been a massive chance. And that's my biggest annoyance.
He was much better in this game, though, I will say.
He was much better because he takes up the right positions. He often makes the right pass, but it just gets so infuriating when he doesn't make the pass. Just pass it.
I think you're being really harsh in this game specifically. I do generally agree with you, but I think in this game he released it pretty quick. He should obviously have had an assist already with the Mavididi one. I'm going to show you another one here. So again, Yakov's going to pump the ball long. Here you can see Fatawu is going to win the aerial. He's going to play it into Ayew. Ayew gets the ball. Here he does do actually a few step overs, but the step overs actually work. And you can see that he's trying to cut the ball back here to Jordan James. And they actually say that here's the point about us supporting the team is that JJ, instead of being here, he needs to be there to pick up this ball, to crash and get it into the back of net. So that's something he's got to work on. But I was doing that, running the channels well all day long. And here's an example from later on in the day. Again, he makes a step over. Fair play. I think this is, I'm not sure who that is. That might be Jay De Silva, but someone makes the block here. But if they don't make this block, that is coming in. Again, he's going for the pass here to Jordan James. Now he is in the right position and we would have scored. So that's why I mean he is actually doing the right thing, right? The team still needs to connect. I think that's the distances between the players and the timing isn't quite there yet. But I think when it does work, it'll get better. I think you're totally right to say that he wasn't releasing the ball fast enough in previous games, but he is improving there.
Yeah, he is getting better, and I think there is too much criticism on it. I'll say that. It is just the fact that every single time he makes a mistake, it's a very infuriating mistake, if that makes sense, because he can release the ball on time 5 times, you're like, that's very good. But if he stops a massive chance from happening, because he is often, in that key position, it gets very, very infuriating if he holds up the ball so long. Even if, 6 out of 10 times or 8 out of 10 times he does, you still remember those 2 times where that could have been a bigger chance. And that's unfair on him, for sure, because he does do a lot correct. But that's what sticks with the viewer, right? And that does,
Absolutely. And that is why, of course, that people are very excited to see this lad play. So here's my section. I'm going to cover all 3 strikers, what they potentially add to the team, and what the idea should be in terms of how we use them. So Julian Carranza came into the team. Now, what's interesting is when he came on, they actually took Jordan James off and they moved Ayew to the 10 position and they played Carranza in front of him. So that was interesting to see. Now, what I also wanted to show you here, Doug, is I think this is probably the best visual I can give you. So here are the 3 kind of 9s, if you want to call them that in the squad. We've got Ayew, Carranza, and Daka. And what I've got here as well is the average positions they took in this game. And they're pretty interesting. So what you can see is that Ayew, who did obviously spend the most time on the pitch, and of course, this is somewhat corrupted by the fact that he was playing as a 10 later on in the game. But you can see he was playing centrally, but he was the deepest of all 3. And I think if you looked on the eye test, that makes sense, right? Because he definitely plays deep. That is the criticism that everyone's giving to him. You can see by comparison, Carranza is playing a little bit further forward, and he is actually playing further forward than this is now Monga and Fatawu. But you can still see, I would say, that's still more of a sort of 9.5 position than the genuine playing on the shoulder striker. Because who is the player?
He was more touch and go
here?
Oh, that's the guy right in the penalty box, right? Is that number 20? Is that the Patson Daka, the famous world superstar, best striker in the league and world?
So there you go. That kind of shows you all the sort of the differences between the three. And I think that is good about the squad, is that we have different options for different game states and different teams that we're going to play against. So, for example, you've seen with Marty, if we are going to go 1-0 up and we want to play on the counter, then having Patson Daka to be that guy that can hit on the shoulder is a good option to have. In this game, he actually, even in the end, played Carranza and Daka up top as two people, as two strikers. So he did go for it. So now we're going to show you Carranza. He did a lot of good stuff as well. So Yannick's on the ball here again. And again, I think a big difference with Enzo's system compared to Marty is that Marty is prepared to go direct a lot more often. So again, Yannick, very good distribution all day long, plays the ball right over the top into Carranza. So here he kind of is operating. And I think, to be fair, if this was Ayew, I think would be wider compared to Julian, who's going to be a bit more central. He gets on the ball. You can see exactly what he's going to do. He gets here into the box. And again, if I was going to have one criticism, it'd be like, well, where is the box crusher and where is the winger? Because they need to be getting here, because your striker's just made a good option there. And he's going to go for the pass. And you can see here now that is actually Hamza who's crashing the box at this point in time. The ball is dealt with. So this is just early on in his career, but you can see the idea of what he's trying to do. So he is still operating a little bit as a 9.5, where he's going to link play with other players. But to be fair, people are putting it in chat here. You know, he did also show something that Ayew hasn't really, and that's a bit more of a direct option in the box. So here we can see Hamza on the ball. He's going to play it out here to Fatawu. Well, actually, Wings gets it first. Wings is going to play it out to Fatawu. And what I like is actually, if we go back in the move, you can see already, can you see he's got his arm out, right? And this is what I think is what people are crying out for. They want to see their number 9 actually attack the box, right? And actually demand the ball and ask for service. And you can see he is asking for service, even though he's a substitute making his first appearance for Leicester. The ball comes in, good run here, times his run well, ball's coming in, and that's a decent effort that he makes. Now, because of the cross, you know, it's hard to really do better with it.
There's not much space to work with.
Yeah. You have to really crank the neck muscles to generate more power. And he still got it on target, so it was decent. But I think that does bode well, though, for us going forwards, in that you can see what he potentially could offer the team compared to Ayew, who ironically is behind him as the 10 in this position. And again, I think if against teams that maybe don't have the most physical defenders, maybe like, I don't know if you saw this, for example, Southampton lost against Hull, and they were really bad at winning their aerial duels. You would probably start Carranza in a game like that, right? With teams that you need to move their block around more, maybe you're going to go for Daka. But teams that are going to play a suicide high line, you might go for Daka. So there's many different options we can go for.
I'll say as well, I think Carranza was very different in his link-up play, right? Because he was very one touch and go. When he dropped deep, it was very much, I received the ball, maximum 2 touches I think I saw from him, or 1 touch, just give it to the runner, and they come over. So he was very much just like a station, and that did allow him, compared to Jordan Ayew, to more quickly get back into the box, because he didn't have as many duties to fulfill, you know, around the area. He just, I've received the pass and I've immediately sent it back, and I'm back in the box to try and be there on the end of it, which is very different. And again, I love the flexibility, and it's very entertaining to analyze these games with you each week, because each time you bring up something different to me, and you can see the general structure, but you know how different players operate within it, and the instructions they're under are all adapted to how they play and how the situation works best for them.
Exactly. I have to say, my gut feeling is, I think as we get towards the end of the season, I think Carranza will take over as the main player for this position. But because we're playing 46 games, I think him and Ayew will work in tandem. And I guess what I want to say is that, look, I don't think Ayew should have been given the number 9 shirt. I think we should have signed Carranza much earlier than we did, because it would have been much more useful to have that player in pre-season getting used to the system. But I think he is being unnecessarily hated on, where what I've seen, I said this in pre-season as well, where he beat Daka basically to the starting striker role, is that I think he's actually doing what is being asked of him pretty well. So there you go. Now, it's funny here that Common Boy says Coventry fans were celebrating when Daka was coming on. Unfortunately, probably sums it up. So he wasn't on for very long. He only had 5 minutes. But what I'll show you is that, unfortunately, to sum him up, now, to be fair, now he's playing up top with Carranza. So we decided to really go for it in the last couple of minutes, put 2 strikers on. Ball's going to come to him. But unfortunately, this sort of just summarizes Daka, that you can see already receiving the ball. He's not standing correctly. So he's not really shaping his body to like get a finesse strike. And so in the end, it's a Daka special. He strikes the ball like this. And it's extremely difficult to score a goal when you're hitting it like that, Duck, let me tell you. And it's a pretty tame effort. Daka, let's be honest with you, he's run his due at Leicester. He's going to see out this season on his contract.
Thank you for a few memorable games. And,
We'll always have Moscow. That's basically what we'll remember.
I remember one where like the back heel goal as well, where he like, chopped it very nice. Was that against United or something, where he got a good goal as well? They all felt a bit more lucky in hindsight, right? It was not a great show of technical ability. It was more, things working out. But yeah, thank you for the memories, lad. I don't want to see you again.
And the problem is, with that kind of first touch, you just can't play the system that Marty wants to, because you're not going to be able to play it into your teammates with a rotation. Because here, to be honest with you, again, if he didn't want to have the strike, if that's a good number 9, he could have played it into Hamza to have a strike, for example, right? So, he's just not got that finesse about him. So anyway, just to finish up, I talked about this before, but I want to talk about it again. That is to talk about how we managed to nullify Coventry, because we did a good job on that, and we always look at the patterns and the attacking stuff, but like I say, clean sheets win championships, and we got a clean sheet today. And honestly, we kept Coventry pretty quiet, despite the fact that they were the best performing team in terms of goals expected in the league this season. So what I wanted to say is that, like, the way that Coventry set up under Lampard is they did do a lot of pressing and high pressing, and I will actually say that I have to give Lampard a lot of credit, because I don't know if you remember this, but Lampard, when he was in charge of Chelsea, he lost his job after losing to Leicester City, believe it or not. And I remember
the 2-1 and Didi goal, right?
Yeah. And I remember the game quite vividly, because his pressing was all over the place. Like, I remember this example in my mind vividly, where Hakim Ziyech was playing for them at the time, and he tried to press, I think it was Ben Chilwell, but he pressed completely by himself. And Chilwell just passed the ball into Tielemans, and Tielemans just had like all of Stamford Bridge available to do whatever he wanted to. And it just basically was not coordinated. So to be fair to him, he's gone back, he's studied the tapes, he's clearly tuned into Tuesday night tactics stuff, because he's got his pressing patterns a lot better. So what they did try to do is they obviously tried to, look, you can see that's already in that picture. They're trying to block the passing lanes to both Booba and to Harry Winks. The ball's going to get played into Vestergaard. They're going to chase him down again. And see, this is the point about having these particular 4 players in this box. Is it mean you've got players that are comfortable in possession, comfortable on the ball, and they can play out of pressure. So you can see Yannick, he's going to play it into Thomas. Now, I've got to say, this is the thing that scares me. If that's Thomas or it's Vestergaard, right, that would be the trigger that I would operate on. To be fair to him, Thomas, he does okay here. He manages, this is Takamoto, I think his name is. He manages to get the ball out here to Jordan James. And then Jordan James, he gets pressed himself, but he ends up winning the free kick. So we managed to get out of pressure. And we managed to do that quite a few times during the game. And that's what, basically managed to nullify their press. It's why we started the game slowly, because they pressed quite effectively to begin with. And as we got more comfortable with the press, that's when they had to start retreating, and we got more kind of domination of the game. So issue is we can't obviously play all those players every week. We're going to have to rotate, but they did a great job. And that's one way that we were able to show that we were comfortable. And look, if we get back to the Premier League, we're going to need to be good at that. Although I suspect if we get to the Premier League, there's a big chance that Faze, Vestergaard, Winks and Samari will all be gone. So we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
I'll say, I think some of the players here might have a chance of signing, short-term extensions depending on how the season goes. I think, for example, Ricky, I think he very much seems to be happy here. If Marty works out well, and if he plays well, if he enjoys the tactic, I could see him signing a 1-year deal if we go up, to just be, I'll be there trying to see if I can keep you guys up. I could see that, and maybe like depending on what happens with all any of the other players, I could realistically see that as well. Maybe not with Fars, but like even Wings, he's not been that outspoken. He's just had a falling out with a few managers. If he turns out to be a key player again, and Marty stays, which he obviously will, because I don't think he will be as attractive as someone like, Enzo Maresca, right, who came from the treble-winning City. I think there's a chance he would maybe sign one
points total this season in the Championship. A lot of people are going to want Marty. No, I agree with you, mate. I agree.
But anyway, you get what I'm saying.
I wanted to show you that. The other thing that you got to say Coventry were very dangerous at were these long throw-ins. I mean, honestly, they were very nervous to see here. Van Uwijk, he's got no right, in my opinion, to throw the ball this long, but he was, and it was
hate
something.
Long throw-ins. I hate them. I hate them
because they're so hard to deal with. You can see even in the Premier League that they're so effective. But I think you have to give us credit is that Jakob came and he punched it all the times. I mean, Mads Hermansen's getting eaten alive in the Premier League because he's
benched.
Yeah. Well, I feel a bit sorry for him. So this shows you the importance of it. And overall, look, we never really had we might have been nervous when the throw-in was taken, but so far as I can remember, we haven't actually conceded from a long throw yet in the league. I'm sure it will happen, right? But so far we've done with it well. So again, that was good from the set piece. Andrew Hughes defensively, we got that sound this particular game. But I will just show you this, right? So there were a few things that went badly. So the one chance that I think Coventry had that maybe was a clear-cut chance. And now what I like about this is they only came about because we made a mistake. So for Tau, rare mistake. He's going to try and play the ball back here to Ricardo. He kind of misplaces the pass. Coventry get on the ball. You can see Haji Wright playing on the shoulder of FaZe. He's asking for the ball down the line. It does eventually get played to him. Now here, maybe the right option would be to cut it back. I mean, maybe that's going to be cut out thanks to Thomas and Yannick.
Yeah,
here.
I genuinely don't think he sees that. It's a very
I don't either. I think that's the difference. To be fair to him, even if he does see it, I actually don't think he can play the pass. I think Thomas would cut it out. So I think that's good positioning.
Just a quick question as well before we move on. Will we see Monk as skinning Sakamoto again? Or is that not included in this analysis?
Not included in this analysis. You asked.
I might as well leave then. That's all I wanted to see.
Yeah, well, we know Monga's good. I'm trying to deliberately make it so people don't know how good he is. So he's still not playing.
Yeah, of course. He's very bad. Don't sign him, guys.
You know, I'm sure we'll be covering Monga plenty in the analysis shows as the weeks go by. So yeah, Wright drags it wide. And actually, this is where the Mavididi chance came immediately after this chance because they'd all pushed up. So that was good save. But what I'm saying is to reduce Coventry to just that, and it came from a mistake. I think we've got to give the team credit, right? Because you know, keeping those clean sheets. People forget when we got promoted on the Enzo, I think we had the best defense in the league, right? So that is really important for a long season like that. The only thing I did want to say, though, is that he got a lot of pelters in the post-match review show. Understandably, so was Hamza. But I don't really want to pick on Hamza so much, but I did want to show you what the difference in personnel can make, right? So as I said to you, what we did so well in this game is that we nullified Coventry's pressing because we were able to play around the press and in fact turn their press against them because it made spaces for us, as Harry Winks and Booba showed. But when you've got players in the team who aren't so comfortable under pressure, that's when you can get exposed. So here we can see Hamza's on the ball and you can see a similar thing. So Coventry are trying to block off the passing lane to FaZe. They've got two men. They're sort of go on, you pass it to Winks, mate, because we're going to rob the ball if you tried that. So Hamza's not quite sure what to do. And so he's going to end up turning back and heading back towards his own goal. Fair enough. But you can see as soon as he turns back, that is the trigger. So now they're going to start pressing him. So he's going to move back. He's under pressure here. And again, that passing lane is blocked. So he can't play it back to the keeper. He can't play it to Yannick.
Panicking.
Yeah, exactly. He's going to start panicking. So he's going to turn back now. That is the right move and play it back down the line. And the ball that he's going to try and do is he's going to try and play it. Well, he should play it back into Winks because of the diagonal, but he actually plays it down the line. And you can see that because he does that, Coventry get on the ball and we turn over. And that caused a lot of panic, right? So that is a difference. And that is the thing that, look, I don't think every team we're going to play is going to be as good at high pressing as Coventry, right? But West Brom will be an interesting one. I think they do tend to do that under Ryan Mason. So I think we'll see a similar team to what we played here. But that's my point is that, you know, it's good having this kind of thing. Yes, Hamza does panic a lot, right? What I would say, what I think is a bit unfair, though, is he can play right back, but I think it depends who you're playing against, right? So, again, I talk about Hull just because I was watching this game because they played against Southampton. Hull went really direct. They used players like Lundstrom, McBurney, you know, all the Sheffield United classics to try and hit people in the air. And I think against a team like that, Hamza would actually be a better choice than Ricardo, as crazy as that sounds, right? But when you're trying to play this technical game, you got to be careful. And that's my fears on the other side as well. Thomas has done okay so far, but him and Christensen last year, I think teams were very, I mean, I showed you a few times, they were looking to sniff them out because they know that they're quite one-footed.
I don't think any of the two left backs we realistically have are cut out for this system. I think maybe actually the best fit would be Aluko from what we've seen. And he seems to be nowhere near the first team for some reason, which is a bit disappointing actually, but at least he's doing well in the U21.
Well, you know, another thing is Ben Nelson wasn't even in the squad for this one, so that's an interesting one. Makes me think, is he actually just another Will Alves? But that surprises me. He looked so good in pre-season. Anyway, look, let's finish it there then. So that's how the game ended, 0-0 as we say. What I did also want to show you is the attack momentum, and I think this is pretty good. You can see that especially in that second half. What I like about Marseille, we really turned it on. That's obviously the Mavididi chance. But even after that, we still kept it on. But what you can see when we faded away is this is actually when Jordan James and Ricardo went off. So that's where we kind of lost control of the game a little bit before getting it back slightly at the end. So that's something to learn with. I mean, look, that was also Carranza's first debut sort of thing and moving Ayew into that position. They maybe need a bit more time. Yeah, I could say Chowdhury giving the ball away a little bit kind of cost us a bit. But overall, I think, I'll be honest, I was pleased with the performance, but I think I was disappointed with the result because I think we deserved to win. But what I will say, Duck, is that when we played Charlton, I don't think we deserved to win.
Yeah,
in fact,
like,
you could argue they deserved to win.
And that's why I'm not too upset, right? If this was the 5th game in a row where I went away with the feeling like we should have been winning this game, we were 5 times better, and it's so annoying. It keeps happening. I'm like, this balances itself out eventually because we should not have won at Charlton. And yeah, so like it'll even itself out, right? It'll even itself out eventually. And again,
Absolutely.
it's a positive. So many positives to take away, even if it wasn't the 3 points today we got to be excited about. I feel like the football from Marti and the fact that I'm seeing progression, I'm seeing growth. I'm excited to tune in each week and see how much we've moved, and it's a joy. And there's optimism in me. There's hope. There's belief, and that's exciting. Even if I'm not saying we are going to promote it guaranteed easily.
Absolutely. So here goes. Mike says, I'm disappointed not to get the 3 points, especially at home, but we got some answers and definitely in terms of the performance, steps forward in many areas. We need to keep improving, no doubt about it. We need to be more consistent. In the first 15 to 20 minutes, it was difficult to break through the high press and they were very aggressive. We need to get better in those scenarios. But in the last 15 minutes of the first half, in the first 15 or 20 of the second, we were quite good and we could break through them. They were a good team, but perhaps we just missed this last edge in the last third. We had the situations to score and be much more worried if we weren't creating those. But in football, if you don't score the chances, you don't get much. I think that's very fair what he said there. So what do we think? I'll ask you in a second. But for me, it was a slow start, but overall, a very positive performance. For me, it was the first time this season we had control of the game for almost the entire 90 minutes. I think certainly the first 80 minutes, we looked in comfortable control. It looked like only one team was going to score. We were getting progressively better. All the patterns of play were starting to work. Very nice. The chance creation could be better. I think you have to say that an XG of 1, you want to see it 2 or 3.
It could definitely be better.
Yeah. But we were creating chances, including one clear-cut one. And I think what I like seeing is that, again, we showed you that goal that we scored for the equaliser against Oxford, is the system is starting to create chances now. That's what you want to see from the team, right? Because what I'm saying is that chance, for example, that Jordan James had, you're going to see that chance again very soon. And then we're going to start scoring from it. So you remember with Enzo, we always see those cutbacks or the dink to the back post or the run into the inside channel for the number 8. Once those sort of things you start seeing, they work, you'll start seeing them time and time again. And I can see it. For me, I think we're still in pre-season. That's how I describe it. So if I saw a game like this in pre-season, I'd be like, wow, we're going places, right? So that's why I'm overall very enthusiastic. Mavididi being off form is a huge issue because if we're not scoring goals and we're saying that the false 9 isn't expected to score as many goals as a traditional number 9, those wingers have got to score, right? So I think Monga's going to probably start in the next match, but I feel sad for him, Mavididi, but he needs to get his scoring boots back on. And I think the problem is if you're low on confidence and then you're told you're dropped for the next game, it's going to make your confidence even worse. But I think the reality is that's the right move as it stands, right? What I would say, though, is give Marty time to find his best team. And I think the Ayew hate is unwarranted, even if, as I'm predicting, I think Carranza is going to end up taking his place. So that's my thoughts. What about yourself? What have you made of the style so far?
The football is entertaining. That's one thing I'll say. I think the panic I'm seeing in the fan base about how poor we are is over-exaggerated. We're moving in the right direction. We have a team that is not only capable of being at the top end of the table, but I'm also seeing a mentality that is capable of battling at the top end of the table. I'm seeing flexibility that I like. There is some, again, the chance creation that is questionable, but we are starting to see chances not created of individual brilliance, but of systematic play, as you mentioned as well. We still need more, though. And yeah, I'm very excited for next week and next week again and next week again, because I feel like every time I tune in, we're getting one step better, and it's becoming more and more fun to watch Leicester City again. And I'm just so thankful for that after what we had last year. Yeah,
it's good to actually want to watch the team again, isn't it? So just wanted to talk about a potential solution that we could do if we are finding a bit of trouble creating chances. And of course, I'm going to go back to Uncle Enzo. So what did Uncle Enzo do? Well, one of the things he did against teams that were particularly stubborn. Well, let me ask you here, in this picture, what's different about this one compared to his usual style?
It's not the 3-2, it's the 3-1, and then you have another one up front. I'll mention it just before you elaborate on this one. we had some times against deep blocks where even, he would pass it, and this wouldn't be about fast. That would be an Vestergaard. He would then actually start running up with the ball himself up until almost the final third. So there would be an extra man up there because they just sat so deep against us when they couldn't beat Enzo's system, which is, again, even he struggles sometimes to have the answers, but I think there's a lot of good stuff to do.
HR, if we can get a new contract offer out to Andreas, please. Thank you. Yes, that is the correct answer. That's exactly what Enzo did, is that he would, against those stubborn teams, he'd commit another player forward. Now, he actually would prefer to have a 3-1 sort of 5-1, but you can have 2 up front and still have 4 in the middle. You can do different options. But yeah, if teams are being particularly stubborn defensively, you can go back to a single pivot. It probably would be Winks again here. Could be Booba, and you commit another man forward. So that's someone that we might want to do. And Ray, totally agree with you. Some people want to see results immediately, but it doesn't work that way. No graph goes straight up. We're building something. Can't wait for Friday. Man, I'm going to end the show with that comment, but we still got some more analysis to show, but that is brilliant. I feel exactly the same way. Credit to you. So just want to go through the championship quickly. So here were the results. And again, here's the big thing, right? Is that, like, people say that, I don't know, I think people are being crazy. Middlesbrough are now top. We're going to come to that in a moment. But again, some score lines here. So Stoke, they were above us. They actually lost to QPR. Ipswich, I don't know how they keep getting away with it, Andreas. They're so jammy. They were down to 10 men, 1-0 down to Blackburn with 10 minutes to play. And then the heavens opened and the game got called off.
If that game doesn't just continue with 10 minutes left to play, it's disgusting. Disgusting.
It'll be interesting to see what they do, because there's all sorts of things. They could either replay the whole game or just replay 10 minutes. We'll come to it. But yeah, Southampton, look, they got beat 3-1 by Hull. And this was a game they were very, very poor in. Norwich, a lot of us had predictions for them to finish in the playoffs. Lost 3-2 at home to Wrexham.
It's good to see Wrexham getting results. Not at this time, though. I think so many UK people hate Wrexham because of the documentary. I think across seas, I hope they do well, but I hope they get fucking battered against us, though. I can tell you that much. But like, I do enjoy the series. I'd rather see Birmingham fall, but they also some fucking lucky bastards. 94th minute winner again. Disgusting lucky pricks, man. We saw how shit they were against us, little shit.
Exactly. Well, the other thing, I mean, Locks predicted Sheffield United to win the entire thing.
But that's Locks, mate. Of course, that's Locks.
I had them to finish above us, I've got to say, though, not automatics. But yeah, they've lost every single game this season. They've
scored one goal, and that was the opening day. They've scored one goal, man. Insane. And they even got Chris Wilder back. They are cooked, man. They are so cooked.
Yeah. And but Borough, they're the team to watch right now. So I've gone for a bit of old school. Those of you who remember Teletext, but it's quite easy to read this. That's why I brought it up. So...
I remember that, mate. It's called Text TV in Denmark. Like Text TV.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, look, fair play to Borough. Not only are they top, but they're top by 4 points. They're going to be top regardless of what happens. They're actually playing Southampton next. But what I wanted to show you is I think this is what people should be keeping in mind, right? And people who are against Marty right now, you need to have a word with yourself, right? We spent no money on transfers this season. Where is Southampton? Southampton are 19th, right? With only 6 points.
Where is Ipswich?
Also, I mean, they have that game in hand.
Where is Sheffield United?
Yeah.
What's the name of the club I just forgot? Norwich as well, who spent quite a bit of money. Like every single club, essentially, except for like a few who haven't spent a penny either, have spent more than us. And we have definitely, if you look at the net, spent the least, I believe, if you count the Bilal money. Maybe some, Ipswich actually less, and Southampton for what they've sold as well. But the point still stands is, like, look at where we are. Middlesbrough, they'll probably actually be up there come the end of the season. They look like they can actually be a contender, but they will also struggle a bit. Remember our start under Enzo, right? Was it 15 games or 14 something, 13 wins and only a few losses? Like, it was an insane scoreline, and even we struggled to close out the title at the end. So keep your heads down, focus on yourself. And like, keep your heads down, focus on yourself. We're getting better week after week. Get behind the boys, and those wins will start to come in more often than not. And I think we'll find ourselves at the fun end of the table. If it's top 2, it's too early to say, but we'll definitely be in the fun party and not struggling to stay up like Southampton or Ipswich.
Yeah, and what I wanted to show is look at our defense. Our defense is pretty good, right? Only 5 goals conceded. Of course, only 8 goals scored, so that's where we need to improve. But it's still better than 1 a game right now. And like I say, Sheffield United, no wins, no draws, 6 losses, conceded 13 goals. So, I'll be honest with you. My fear for us this season, Andreas, is I thought we could be where Southampton or Ipswich are now, right? And both these teams are going to improve for sure, right? But it could be that by the time you start improving, it's too late. And I have to say, I went onto the Southampton forums because one of my friends is a Southampton fan, and already they're saying they don't think they're even going to make the playoffs, which is crazy, right? Because so many people had them as being automatically promoted this season. So coming on to our fixtures. So yeah, you don't have to wait too long. We're playing this Friday night away at West Brom. That is going to be a tough game. We did beat them twice last time in the Championship, but both times they were pretty hairy.
But that was
wins.
Carlos Corberan, though. That was an actually good manager. And now it's Ryan Mason.
I agree. And then the one after that is the one that I think a lot of us are looking forward to, which is Wrexham. Hopefully they got Danny Wood in goal. That should be fun.
Disney Derby.
Yeah, that's how we can do it. So I think just to sort of end with, what I'll ask you, Duck, is what do you think our predicted lineup will be? So this is obviously how we started last game, and the team did do well, but there are a number of talking points. So what do you think? What do you think we're going to line up this Friday against West Brom like?
Something similar. I think that's probably the way I'll say it. I think it will be quite a bit similar. Ramsey won't be back, of course. He's still suspended.
Yeah.
So that's actually my biggest question. I think the back four will remain the same. It's very clear that, Fast is better technically and fits the system better. But what happens with James and Soumaré? Who knows? And does De Cordova-Reid come in playing the 10? He is someone who I could see work in that position. That's why I see the change, and maybe Mavididi out for Monk, but outside of that, it should probably remain quite similar.
Yeah. Well, guys, get it in your comments as well. I'll be interested to hear what you know. I'm not too sure. I think it will be largely the same team, but yeah, I could see Mavididi being swapped for Monga. As you say, I could even see Christensen coming to the team. Same with Reed, but I've got a feeling he might wait for the games after, because I still think this is, especially away from home, this is a tough game. I would like us to win, but I think even the draw away at West Brom is not necessarily the worst result, even though that'd be 3 draws in a row. We'll see, obviously, when it happens. But anyway, let's leave it there. That's been the analysis show. If you'd like the stream, do like. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, subscribe to us. Vote for us in the content awards. You've probably seen the message from Locks. We're going for that one, which is pretty good. But thank you for joining us. And we'll see you tomorrow for Fox's Den. Thank you.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.
Massive thank you to today's sponsor, Match Bingo. Over 200 grand has been paid out to players so far by taking sports betting, football and bingo and combining them into one amazing app. Make sure to get your bingo card for any Leicester City game in the upcoming season. Click that link in the description or via the QR code on screen.
Cheers. Thank you. Very good.